And on justice, we're going to turn to Arsalan. Arsalan, we've been having these conversations, I think, for 5.5 years now since the Gambia first filed its case in November 2019. And excitingly, the case is now appears to be in its final stages, with oral arguments from the parties and intervening states coming up very soon. Can you explain to us, where are we going? What should we expect in oral proceedings? When can we expect a decision? And what are you expecting out of the court? And how is the Gambia working to integrate Rohingya victims and survivors into these final stages?
Yes, thank you so much, Akila, for that question, but also for moderating this discussion and for your engagement with us and our team throughout. And thank you as well to BROUK for hosting this webinar, and also for the constant reporting that BROUK does on the situation in Rakhine State. It's very important to continue to get these updates, and it's very helpful for us as the legal team for the Gambia to be seeing the reporting from BROUK. Yes, as you mentioned, Akila, it's been 6 years since the Gambia initiated this case. Unfortunately, some of the timeline for ICJ cases can be quite long, but and there were, various phases to this case before that helped to extend that timeline. But we are now on the cusp of the oral hearing on the merits, which will be the hearing at the court, where the court hears and ultimately decides on the core question in this case, which is whether Myanmar is responsible for acts of genocide against the Rohingya, and whether they are going to be held responsible for violating their obligations under the Genocide Convention. I can say by way of update that the hearing is scheduled. The court has not made the information about the hearing fully public yet, but I can share that it will be very soon in the new year. It'll be, at some point in January in 2026. And that'll be really an important, obviously, the most important phase of the case thus far, but also I think a really important moment for justice and accountability for the Rohingya, because again, be we will be in a court where Myanmar is defending itself against these allegations of genocide, and we will be able to fully air all of the evidence and reasons why we believe, and so many believe, that Myanmar has violated its obligations under the convention. So in terms of how what to expect, we will have the hearing. Again, it'll begin in January. Once the hearing is concluded, then the court will deliberate on whether, the main question, which is whether Myanmar is responsible for violating its obligations under the Genocide Convention. It's unclear how long it would take the court to issue a judgment. Again, this is obviously a very important case, and I'm sure the court will take its time in deliberating. So I don't have an exact, specific timeline as to when the judgment may be ready. Of course, the court will notify us when it is, but I think it's fair to assume that the judgment would be issued at some point during the year 2026. It may take several months. It may take 4 to 6 months, possibly more. But I think it's fair to think that the court would want to get its judgment completed before the end of 2026 in particular. And depending on what is in the judgment, there may be perhaps additional procedure that might be required, given that the question of remedies has to be decided by the court as well. Remedies meaning, if the court finds that Myanmar has violated its obligations, what then is Myanmar going to be ordered to do? And so some of the requests that the Gambia has made in its pleadings, which include reparations and compensation, the details about how to go about determining that may not be completely obvious or easy to decide and may require further input from the parties before the court settles on a decision if it gets to that point. So that's just a little bit of a preview of perhaps things to come. And in terms of the other part of your question, Akila, about incorporating the Rohingya survivors and other community voices, that's definitely been something that we've tried to do throughout this process, including by engaging with organizations like BROUK and others, key community members like Weiwei and others, to get their input and to ensure that their voices are heard. But in the context of the case specifically, we also have dozens of witness statements from Rohingya survivors. And so that's a direct way for them to be able to give their testimony to the court. Their testimony is, I think, going to be extremely important when the court ultimately does make its decision. We have in the past, during hearings, also, we have tried to ensure that some of the survivors have been able to attend the hearing, and we will be making efforts to try to see if that can happen again. So that's another way of having their presence felt in the court itself during the proceedings, which we think is important as a reminder to everyone and the court in particular what this case is about, which is